Here with reaction, Fox News contributor and former Speaker of the House, Newt Gingrich, one of our great ones, of course. Speaker Gingrich, thank you for joining us. I have to say that I'm always uncomfortable with the complaint about age, because everyone's different at different ages. It doesn't mean that someone younger would be better or someone older can't function. Nancy Pelosi was, doing a really good job for the Democrats, older than Biden. What is your take on what we clearly, I think we're just being gentle about his cognitive issues, which does strike some people at a certain age. Where do you think we're at right now with this kind of chaos?
Look, I think that aging is a very personal thing. Henry Kissinger just turned 100 and is writing his next book. Different kind of behaviors. Biden clearly has some significant confusion, and it clearly is getting worse. I frankly would not be surprised to see him not get to be the nominee again, because I think all these things compound, and I think whether it's Robert Kennedy or somebody else, he's going to face very serious challenges by the time we get to the primaries next year. Kamala Harris is a different problem. I mean, Kamala Harris combines a level of incompetence with a level of weirdness that we've never seen in a vice president before. And I think if you went out and asked people, do you think she should be president? The answer would be overwhelmingly no. If you point out to them that if Biden gets reelected and she's his vice president, she has a pretty real chance of becoming president. I think that's a huge drag on Biden for reelection. So what you just showed tonight is typical of what we're living through. But what's frightening about it is it has real world implications. Right. There are rumors tonight that Xi Jinping, the dictator of China, is about to cut a deal between Russia and Ukraine. If that succeeds, he'll get a Nobel Peace Prize. He'll be seen in Europe as a heroic figure. And the degree to which that will diminish and shrink the United States is 5 years ago would have been unthinkable. And yet with Biden, who's not really a commander-in-chief, he's kind of an appeaser-in-chief. All these things are possible. And if you had Kamala Harris, she wouldn't be in chief of anything. So I think we're at a very difficult period in American history.
What's interesting is his announcement, one would have thought that he was waiting because he had to placate or rally all of the different sectors in the Democrat Party to back him in this regard. Part of that clearly was Kamala Harris. Otherwise, there was other options, interesting options, frankly, like Bobby Kennedy. Wouldn't that have been an interesting choice to make? But clearly he couldn't do that without disrupting the far left in the party. One wonders if, in fact, they feel they're going to do what they did in 20 and just usher him through. And the intention is for Kamala Harris to become the president, and presuming then that she would just be carried through for the next, well, she'd have 2 years, and then she'd have, I guess, another 8. But can we? I don't think we can survive that kind of dynamic, and it means that our system, as the voters making these choices, really has collapsed in some way.
Look, I think the challenge we have is that the problems we now face have moved beyond politics into history. This is one of those moments in time when even a great country like the United States can disintegrate. We can suddenly find ourselves a tributary of China, totally dominated and seen as kind of irrelevant in the rest of the world. And I think it's extraordinarily dangerous. This is way beyond Republican, Democrat. This is a president who clearly shows every day that he's not totally there, a vice president who clearly shows every day that even if she were there, she wouldn't be there, a ideological base of their administration that is so radically left that on almost every single issue, they are opposed to the American people, and they're trying to impose on the American people a set of values and actions which the American people don't want. We've never seen anything quite like this in our history, and we have to see it as historic, not
Great
just
point.
political.
Yeah,
this is a real moment for America.
Yeah, this is not that, all roads lead to Rome and we're just fighting on the direction of where we're all going to be heading. This is a completely different framework. And we've seen such dramatic change in such a short period of time. In Biden's time, sir, we have lost 4 embassies. We eventually got we were able to reopen the Ukrainian embassy. And then you've got China, as we've discussed, brokering effectively a peace deal between Iran and Saudi Arabia. It's as though the world is moving on and we're parked 10 miles back and China is at the head of the train. I think Americans realize that this isn't just a moment that is going to resolve itself. Are the Republicans addressing this properly? Because I'm not hearing the concern about Biden or the concern about the direction or the seriousness of what this all represents, except for from Donald Trump, perhaps.
Well, I think first of all, that the victory this week of Speaker McCarthy and the House Republicans in passing a debt ceiling with real reform, with $4.1 trillion in spending cuts, that's a historic moment. That's a real shift in the direction of the country. But I think also your point's exactly right. We have watched something I wouldn't have thought possible. We have a president who is probably the most corrupt president in American history. He has a Secretary of State who was making money at the Penn Biden Center while the Chinese communists were pouring cash into the University of Pennsylvania. You have an administration which seems to want a smaller, weaker, less effective America.
Yeah.
They adopt policies. This whole idea, for example, of a Chinese battery factory in Michigan, paid for in part by the state government of Michigan. If you were trying desperately to make the Chinese dominant, what more could you do than the Biden Democrats are currently doing?
Yeah, and all of that, sir, Mr. Speaker, leaving 16,000 Americans effectively abandoned in Sudan. With, you're on your own, shelter in place, that it used to be sacrosanct to rescue Americans, to make sure we left no one on the field, right? And even that is now out the window. Newt Gingrich, thank you so much for all of that. Very nice. I appreciate it.